Hey everyone, welcome back to Open. Our last guest is the Bronx Poet Laureate, Whippa. She's an educator, storyteller, music enthusiast, born and raised in the South Bronx. And through her poetry, she aims to enable the spirit of creativity and promote a passion for literacy and education across the Bronx in an effort to inspire a new generation of poets and writers. Her voice of activism can be seen in her two poetry collections, Cry, Sweat, Bleed, Write, and Diary of an Intercessor. And she, once again, is the 2023 through 2025 Bronx Poet Laureate, the second Bronx Poet Laureate ever. Please welcome Kay Bell.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes. You're like, thank you. I mean, it's a really prestigious title to carry, especially being the second.
Yes.
So can you just share with me what that process was like and how it developed? Because if you're only the second, this became, somebody had an epiphany and was like, we need our own borough poet laureate.
Yeah, well, first let me say that it's really an honor to be the Bronx Poet Laureate because in New York City, when we think about artistic experiences, we don't think about the Bronx, but there's so much artistic and cultural value in the Bronx, and it's really an honor for me to be the face of that. So I want to start there.
Yeah.
But the process, well, it is a new thing in the Bronx. Actually, I applied for it by accident.
Really?
So I'm a poet. I've published 2 books. Someone sent me a link. A coworker said, they're starting the Bronx Poet Laureate. I think you should apply. And I was like, okay. So I went ahead and I sent them my work. And then a couple of months later, you're a finalist. I was like, okay, well, you know what? I'm a finalist. That's great. You know, I didn't think I would win. And then at the event, when they said the next 2023 to 25 Bronx Poet Laureate is Kay Bell, I was like, who? So I'm really
excited for you.
Well, there was so much great talent there. Like all of the finalists, I'm a fan of all of the finalists. And just to be chosen to represent the Bronx in this way is a major honor for me.
And so what does that honor come with?
So, well, first, a poet laureate is someone who advocates for poetry and the literary arts through various community engagements. So between now and 2025, I'll be working with the Bronx's Reading, which is another organization that promotes literacy and reading in the Bronx, to promote poetry and the literary arts. And a poet laureate is chosen because of their own accomplishments and passion for poetry. So that's something that's really innate in me. We were talking about that. I started writing when I was in 6th grade with the haikus. And so poetry has always been an innate part of me. And so, yeah.
And you know, we can revisit that conversation that we were having prior to being on camera with regards to how everyone is born a poet and how it's really a matter of just sitting and writing and allowing yourself to be vulnerable in that way. But I want to say, like, there was a statement that I read somewhere that you made that really resonated with me, and that is the reason you write. You write so that you can connect to the reader in a way that they're able to have that connection to what's written. Not necessarily you, but to what's written. And that's deep.
Yeah. Well, for me, when I started writing poetry and I was reading poetry, that's what happened for me. I stepped away from the poem and I took something for myself and I built a world for myself. And that's kind of the same experience I want my readers to have. I want them to read my work and connect with not necessarily my story, but what in this story is for you. And a big part of what I'm going to do within my community engagements as the laureate is to promote poetry and healing, right? And so for me, poetry has...
I got to make a note of that one because that is where we are.
Yes.
That is where we are, and kudos to you for picking up the memo.
Yeah, for me, poetry has always been a way for me to process traumas. And also, it gave me a space. I grew up in an environment, which many of us have, where the child was spoken to and you didn't speak back. And
because I said so.
Yeah, and that was it.
Yeah.
And you didn't say anything back. And so poetry for me was where I got to say wherever I wanted to.
Got it.
And, you know, and
With an attitude too. You
Yeah.
saw that? Poetry
I
was
could get
when
the
I got to say whatever
attitude.
I
I
wanted
could use whatever
to.
words I wanted to use. I could, do whatever I want. And so poetry is freedom for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it, and I feel it, and I feel
Yeah.
it deeply because it's your way of being fully self-expressed without being guarded or
Yes.
feeling afraid to just let go of whatever it is that is rendering space in your body, which is what writing does.
Yeah.
It's another form of healing because you're releasing it.
Yeah, like writing has known therapeutic benefits. Just reading and writing for a few moments out of the day can relieve stress. It can promote self-esteem, confidence. So literally, like water, writing, and poetry is good for your mind and your body.
And so, with your newfound responsibilities, not to say that you didn't have them before, because what we didn't mention is she's a professor too.
Yeah. Yes. Shout out to CUNY.
Shout out to Cutie, I love that. But now you get to kind of design it in a way that you see fit. So what does that look like for you?
So again, going back to the topic of poetry and healing, I have a few workshops coming up where I'm going to do a 3-part series of how to use poetry to heal. Right? How do we bend into that? And I really want to focus on that. And I also want to focus on poetry and literacy. So something that my students always ask me every semester is, how do I become a better writer? And they're looking for this fancy answer: read.
Right.
That's it. Just take 5-10 minutes out of the day and read. And so I want to really promote healing and literacy and use poetry as a vehicle to bring that through.
And so are we talking different styles, haiku, sonnets?
Yeah, so I don't do a lot of form, but I love them. I do want to play a lot with haikus and sonnets. I write them. I've written those forms myself, but I really like free verse. I like the freedom in it, and I think that when you start there, it's more approachable because people think that poetry has to rhyme, it has to look a certain way, and I really want people to see poetry as approachable and accessible, and that they can do anything, and then we can kind of like guide and our way
right.
to the other
With
stuff.
the structure. Yeah. No, it's true, and we were having this conversation as well, and how similar it is to arts, right? Because it is a matter of perspective, and it is subjective to your thoughts, your flavor, your language, even. Because when you're using code switching, you're definitely going to be able to relate to somebody who comes from that type of background.
Absolutely.
Which is really what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I was born in Barbados, but I was raised here, and so yeah, even being between those two cultures, and that shows a lot in my work, and I love that. I love when my students are fusing all of those things together. Yeah, that's what poetry is.
Right. Yeah, it's a dance, it's colors, it's music.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a blank canvas in which you can just splatter in whatever
Absolutely.
way. And then you come to, someone like Kay Bell, the Bronx Poet Laureate, who will help you along the way in structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where are you presenting? Any upcoming events that you're presenting at?
So my upcoming poetry and healing series is going to be at the Dream Yard Art Center, located in the Morrisania section of the Bronx. It's going to be in 2 dates in October and 1 date in November, but you can find that information on my website. IamKbell.com. And then I have a series, I always have something going on. I have a series of workshops and things coming up with the Bronx is Reading, and you can also check them out on Instagram at the Bronx is Reading, and all of the events will be there.
Well, wonderful, and thank you for bringing it here to our viewers.
Thank you for having me.
Kay Bell, and thank you for your commitment to our community in, promoting literacy. As a means of healing.
Yes.
Love that. All right, you guys don't go anywhere, because when we return, the Bronx Poet Laureate, Kay Bell, is going to perform for us after the break, and you don't want to miss it. We'll be right back.